Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I've always told you about my life. I've always loved to be honest with you guys about everything I always talk about. I try to be as honest as possible, and I've never lied to you about my history or about myself, about who I am or what I've been through. So I just want to let you guys know that I spent uh, when I told you a while ago that I lived in Chicago. I didn't live in Chicago for a long time, but I lived there for, I would say, maybe a year or half a year in Chicago. And that was Chicago, Illinois, near, I forget, those of you that live there or you've been there, you know where I'm talking about. The elementary school I went I went to was called Jungman Elementary School. And to be honest, I don't really remember so much about it, as in, uh, I don't remember so much about it, as in who my teachers were or what I did there. The only thing I remember, and I clearly remember, was that living there, I went to that school, and I remember the science experiments. I remember watching the Magic School Bus around that time, when people still had cassettes. I don't think they had DVDs yet. They were really into using DVDs. But the other thing I want to talk about is that living there seemed it seemed pretty. It wasn't that bad at first, because what the thing I never told anybody is that living in Chicago, I I lived with my mother in, well, at first I lived with both of my parents in Chicago, Illinois. And something I have to say while there's a plane passing by. Well, living in Chicago, Illinois, I lived in an apartment. It was a second floor apartment in Chicago, Illinois, because I think in the bottom was the owners or something. I forgot who lived at the bottom, or the owners would come by frequently. And living in Chicago was, at first I thought it was pretty cool, because it was, I didn't know we were really going to live there. At first I thought it was just, we're going to take a trip to Chicago, Illinois, and everything would be good. But long story short, living in Chicago wasn't wasn't bad, because I got to meet new people, but I didn't know the real reality about living in Chicago, that I would be leaving people behind. I would be leaving my friends back in LA. I didn't know I would be leaving my grandmother in LA. So like I said, I lived with both of my parents for some time in Chicago. And then a couple of months later, I only lived with my mother in Chicago. I only lived with my mother and my sister, while my father lived somewhere else. He left us for some time, and that's something I've probably never said. I probably never told you that this is the main reason why we used to move a lot, was because my father, my father had that problem where he had someone else he was seeing during that time. During that time from '01 and up to 2000, and maybe 2006 or 2007, not, I think 2005 to 2006, I would say. My father was seeing somebody else. So that's the reason I kind of have that we moved city to city and city to city. Not frequently, but I think we moved, maybe, I don't remember how many times, but we moved. And that's the main reason why we moved, because my father, like I said, he lived with someone else. Even though he was my father, he was, we had problems. And I guess when we moved to Chicago, Illinois, I thought at first it was just a trip that we were taking. But then after, I found out the real truth, that he left to Chicago to try to trick us into thinking, oh, everything's going to be great. Everything's going to be pretty nice. But then after, it was bad again because he left us in Chicago stranded. So that's where you can say it seems like it's a good deal because you're moving to Chicago with your parents and everything seems to be going great. Everything seems amazing. But long story short, no, it's not. It wasn't amazing. But the thing that I kind of thought was amazing was that I got to meet new people, and I'm the type of person that's friendly with everyone I meet. Sorry for the noise. So, like I said, I'm I'm very I'm talkative. I always like to meet new people and see and be friends with them. There's nothing about, oh, because he's this kind of person, I don't want to talk to them. No. I talk to anybody. You're nice to me, I'm nice to you. We can get along and go on. So, that's something that I have to say. So living in Chicago, I'm still not an artist, but living in Chicago, my my father put me through art school. He paid for me to go to art school, and I did learn a lot of stuff. And I'm still kind of an I love art, but to say that I'm an artist, I still say I'm not pretty good at that because maybe that wasn't. I do have a passion for art, but I've I've not mastered art. I'm not good at art. But like I'm saying, living in Chicago, like I've always said, we went around the time of, I think, I don't remember, December or something. We went around the time it was snowing back in '03 or '04. I don't remember when exactly we went, but like I said, we only went there to live for 1 year. And living in Chicago, we never had a car. That's the thing. While we were in LA, we used to have cars and it was all good and dandy. But then after living in Chicago, everything changed. Everything was, let's walk to the bus. Let's take the bus to this other side of the city. Let's take the train to from Chicago, Illinois to O'Hare or Midway Airport, or let's take the bus to Blue Island, and I forget the other places that we went to. And and like I said, when my father left us stranded in Chicago, because he did come back just to just when I said I didn't want to leave him, I didn't want to let him go, so I took a trip with him from Chicago to LA, and that's the reason I'm in LA now. That's the main reason why I'm in LA, because I took a plane with my father to LA. Even though I'm not a huge fan of flying. I would do it, but that doesn't mean I'm a huge fan of getting on a plane and going places. I don't like it. I'm not saying that I wouldn't do it. I'm saying I would do it, but I'm not a huge fan. It's not like something it's a desire for me to do, to get on a plane and head somewhere. But like I said, when he left us stranded in Chicago, we had to move around through snowy days on foot, because when we first got there, my father didn't have a car, so we traveled from LA to Chicago on the train, on the Amtrak, from Los Angeles, from I forget, from Union Station, and then we ended up going to Chicago, Illinois. But the real the real thing is that, like I said, we had to travel. We we had to travel. I mean, we had to transport ourselves on foot, and through the bus station. I mean, through the bus, the transit, and through the train. And we always had to go through the loop. And I remember that the first thing we did when we got to Chicago, we went to Sears Tower, when it was called Sears Tower, because now it's called, I think, the Willis Tower or something. And going through the Sears Tower, it just seemed all cool. And that's before they had that the floor, the see-through floor that they have up there in the Willis Tower, when it was Willis, because now it's not Willis Tower. Now it's something else that I don't really know about. But that's not the whole point. The thing is that, like I said, we lived in an apartment that was on the second floor, and in reality, we hated it. And let me explain why we hated living in in that apartment. And this is not going to be a full on story of living in Chicago. This is just part of it. Living in Chicago, we had covers, but what we never had in the first apartment was what was it? It was a bed. We never had a bed. What we had was a TV where we could watch. I think at that time in Chicago they had we had public. We only had television. We never had cable. So what we had was TV, and what we would just be watching was, like, I think it was PBS. I think it was like 24 hours PBS or something. I forgot what it really was. And living in that apartment, I actually didn't really like it because I think it was an apartment building that was uh, I think it looked like it was about to collapse in terms of how the floor was, because it was pretty bad. But across the street, my mother made friends with some other lady that I think her child also went to the same school I did in Chicago, and they became good friends, and that's the lady that helped us throughout Chicago. She was our friend, and I don't know about her kid, if he was my friend, but there was another guy that lived in the bottom of our apartments that was my friend too. And what I liked about it is that at that time he had a Super Nintendo, but not the classic Super Nintendo, the square one. It was like more of a like an odd Super Nintendo that had that had the remotes that had the buttons of, like, colorful. They were the color. It was a color joystick. The buttons were not purple, like purple and light purple. They were more like green and blue and other colors. And I liked going to his house only because I could play Yoshi's Island. And at that time, I think I only had the Game Boy SP at that time. Before, I forgot what happened. I think my father disappeared. He made my original Game Boy SP disappear when I used to behave bad. But other than that, I would say living in Chicago wasn't too shabby. If we had a car, it would have been better. But no car, so we had to transport ourselves, wait for the bus, and walk around through snow. And what do you expect from Chicago? When it's snowing, how do you expect to go around with a stroller, walk around? And then the worst part that I always have to mention to you guys in these videos is how bad directions were at that time, when people didn't really carry GPSs. We all carried maps. I was about to say almanacs, but that's not. I don't think that's the correct answer. It was just maps that people would carry around, and I think we never carried a map. We just went through. Let's see how we get there. Let's walk around this block. Let's go to the next block, and until we find our location back, or ask people, how do we get back to our area, until we got a little familiarized with our thing, which was pretty good. But like I said, when we first got there, my father used to work as a mechanic. I think he worked as a mechanic, and he didn't have a car. And the best part is that he had African Americans because Chicago is more of a African American area, and as an African American, he worked in an African American community, I guess. And the best part is that those guys were very good to him, but he wasn't that great because, like I said, he took his problems from LA to Chicago, Illinois, and that's how we got. And that's how we got that. That's how we got to that this point where he left us behind in Chicago. But like I said, if it weren't for me being stubborn, saying I want to go with you on the plane to LA, I wouldn't be here. And like I said, while we did that, while we left, my mom and my sister stayed behind. They stayed in Chicago, and they came on the bus, on the Greyhound. So that wasn't amazing to say, oh, it's cool that she stayed behind. No one would say it's cool. But I think most people that lived in LA or that still live here in my city, because we lived in Montebello, California, and now we live in Montebello, California again. So all I have to say is that I would say that people that live in Montebello and know us, I still think they have that same perception. I would say they still have that perception, if they still know who we are. They still have that perception that my father wasn't a good father at that time, but now he's gotten better, and he learned from his mistake, and that's something that I have to say. So, being in elementary school, I felt like it wasn't that bad, because I met people that were pretty good, and the only thing I didn't really like was that I think it was that the playground was very small in Jungman, but I used to love it there. It was because we lived in a community that was a Latino community. It wasn't African American community or a white community, and by that I'm not saying people, those kind of people are bad. No, I'm saying we didn't live in an off community. Like say, oh, I'm let's say I lived in an Asian community. It's like you. What we see is that we try to get into a community that we're familiar with, kind of with the people that we know, or I mean, that we can communicate with. But I'm not saying anybody's bad. I'm saying everyone's good. I mean, any race. It doesn't really matter if they're Asian or Indian or whatever kind of race. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we moved into a Latino community, and yes, I have to say that there probably were African Americans there, and for the most part, they've always been pretty good to me. I mean, not always been pretty good to me, but the people that have been pretty good with me, they're amazing people. They've been amazing, because don't don't get it twisted that say, oh, we cannot get along. Yes, we can. We can get along anytime we want to get along, and there's no one that's gonna tell us no, you can't get along with them. Yes, we can get along with whoever we want to get along with, but that's not the point. The point is saying that it was rough. Chicago for us was very rough. Chicago, Illinois was very rough without my father, with the way that we moved to two apartments. The second apartment was pretty great because it was on the second floor. It was its own thing. I think it was an apartment that was more along the lines of its own. It wasn't mixed with millions of other with other apartments. But the second apartment wasn't amazing either, but it was way better, and I loved it. But being in Chicago, I would say it's not bad. It's it's truly not bad. The only thing that I wasn't used to, or we were not all used to, was the cold, the snowy days. Because like we say, living in LA, you never encounter snow. We've never encountered snow here in Montebello, or say you go to Downey, you're not going to encounter snow. You're not going to encounter snow going to downtown LA. You're not going to encounter snow going to Southgate, or going to Linwood, or going to La Puente. You're not going to get snow unless if you go to the mountains. But that's another thing. So that's what I'm saying. What I'm just trying to say is that with my father, we had a lot of ups and downs, up and down. So saying that everything was great growing up, no, it wasn't great. For those of you that think my life was great, or I'm the best, I guess going through all of this, I guess that's the real problem that I don't know if it's a real problem, but that what I'm just trying to say is that because of my father, his bad behavior and his thing that he had, and and you can you can guess what he did, because like I said, he had someone else he was seeing behind our backs, and when we found out, it was horrible. And just just to put this into perspective, I have to say that moving around is not a good thing. If you if you have kids, or you have a brother and sister, and you move around, it's not good, because you get to meet new people. That's for sure. You meet new people, and it's amazing to meet new people. But then after that, you leave your old friends behind, and by leaving your old friends, you'll never get to see them again, because you don't know who they are anymore when they grow up. What will you recognize them? No, but I did have a guy that recognized me when I moved back to the city of Montebello. He recognized me, but I didn't. That's the thing. That's the thing, that people that have recognized me in the past, they say they remember me, but when I say, do I remember them? I say no. I don't remember a single thing about you, and that's the problem. Growing up and moving around and and going through this stuff, it's like you don't remember who they are. It's like, who are you, bro? You know me, but I don't remember you. That's pretty crazy. But that's not. I'm just trying to put this into perspective and say, look, I think because moving around too much, it it screwed me up with having friends, with having too many friends, and having people that were nice to me. Because yes, growing up, I have to say, I've had a lot of people that were pretty decent. Okay, so like I said, I've had people that were decent with me, that were pretty cool with me, and I do agree that they're amazing people. Because growing up, like I said, my first school wasn't in Montebello. I think, was it? Yeah, it was in Montebello. I think it was because I went to Head Start, or I went to some other some other school, and I think I have the photo, and I could put it up sometime onto my Instagram or onto my Twitter or something. I don't know where it's at, but I'll have to find it. I went to Head Start. I think I went to daycare, Head Start, then kindergarten. I don't know what I went to be honest. I think it was like daycare, then it was Head Start, then it was kindergarten, then so on. So I'd been through school, or daycare, or whatever you want to say. So I would say that maybe my first school was in Montebello. And something I have to say is that it was pretty nice, because I had everything I've ever wanted. Like you have to. That's the sad part about it, is that I had everything from the beginning. From the beginning, everything was easy. I could make friends. I could talk to anybody. They want to be friends with me. They think I'm the coolest dude in school. I'm the coolest person because I can talk to whoever I want. I could get whatever I wanted. And then moving around, like I said, then you lose friends along the way. And then you get new friends. And then you move again, then you lose those friends. It's like, it's pretty bad. But it's not a good thing. If anybody thinks of, oh, when you're older and you have kids or something, and you're thinking of moving around school to school, I would say no, don't do that. Don't move schools, or don't move cities, because then you're going to lose the the diamonds. I'm saying, like, friendship is like a diamond. You lose that, you're not going to have that again. So that's all I'm just trying to say, ladies and gentlemen. So with that story I just kind of gave you, I have to say I did lose a lot of people that were very good to me. I had good friends, and I tried everything I could to keep them as my friends. And yes, there was a lot of people that I could go to their house, and it seemed pretty nice, like a typical friendship in the beginning. But like I said, when you move around, then you lose those people, and then you have people that probably are not the same. Because I moved, let's see, how many times? I think I moved, let's see, because to what I have to say is that I was born in East LA. I wasn't born in Montebello. For those of you that think, oh, he probably was born in Montebello. No, I was born in East LA in the year 1995, and like I said, my first school was probably in Montebello. I'm not too sure, but I assume it's Montebello based on the photos I have of me. Is that my first school was in Montebello, and it seems pretty good. Making friends, talking to people, they want to be friends with you, and even the teachers like you. And sometimes, even with like I've said in the past, even though I had a lot of friends, uh, I still wasn't a nice person. I still treated people kind of bad, and that's something that's really weird about me. That even though I had all the friends I wanted, it's like I still treat you like crap, and that's something I have to learn. I mean, I had to learn not to treat people like crap, because it's like I want something with you, but then what am I doing? What's this in me that decides to trash you and make you feel bad? So that's all I'm saying. What I'm just trying to say is that I gave you my story in Chicago, and telling you that with my father that had those problems of the problems I just told you, and then moving around kind of destroyed my friendship with people, and people probably know who I am, but they and some people probably don't know who I am because they don't remember who I am as a because I was in their class maybe in kindergarten, in first grade, in second and third, and then moving around you get to, I mean, you don't remember, you don't even know what they look like anymore. So just trying to tell you, don't move. Don't move around like me. Don't have that mistake and move around with uh, different cities and think it's all cool because the the damage you did in one school. Oh yeah, it's cool. I did damage in one school, and now it's time for me to go to another school. And that's how I always been. Like every time I left school, I used to try to damage it. I used to be like, I'm leaving anyways. What does it matter if I go to that school or not? So that's all I'm just trying to say, ladies and gentlemen. Don't have the same mistakes I did of moving around, even though it seems cool at first, but in the long run, it's not good, because all the friends you have, you're going to lose them. And growing up, I was the type of person that could have any friend I wanted, because I'm the person who's talkative, who's who's friendly, who not friendly as in I'm always gonna be on your side. No, there was times where I was I was rude to my own friends, and I don't know why I was rude to them. And if they were all here to see who I am, or to see me in person, I would say, I don't know what's wrong with me. Why did I do this to you? And that's not something I would ever do again. I would never be rude to these people again. So that's all I'm just trying to say, ladies and gentlemen, that I don't I don't know. Like I said, I think it's because I moved around too much, and I lost a lot of friends. Because going through kindergarten, first, second, and third, isn't that like a couple of years you spend in one school? Then you move to another school, then you start third, fourth, third, then fourth grade, then move again, or I forgot, third, fourth, and fifth grade, which is weird. I went third, fourth, and fifth, then moved again, and then had fifth, sixth, and then then went to middle school, then 7, 8, 9, oh 7, 7 and 8, then go to high school, and then move again to another high school. It's like pretty weird. But then, like I said, some people recognized me when I came back from my high school to Montebello High School, and yeah, I'm pretty happy about that. At first, it's like, no, you don't want them to recognize you, but in the long run, it's better. But it's not the same because all the time you could have had with them when went away. It's like you had something nice, and then you threw it away. So that's all I'm just trying to say. So for those of you that want the truth, I'm here to give you my truth, my own story, and tell you who I am and what I've gone through, so you guys won't make the mistake. So if any of my old classmates were to ever see this, this is something I would say. I am sorry that I was probably rude to you, and that I didn't treat you the way you were meant to be treated. I was I wasn't the best friend, but at least I was a friend to you. So that's all I'm just trying to say is that I that's what I'm just trying to say is that when moving around, you lose friends, and you lose the time that you've been with them. All the time, it's like you created a friendship, but then you cut it, and then you don't have them anymore, and that's not good. So that's all I'm just trying to say, ladies and gentlemen. If you if you feel something about this video, it hits you in your heart, and you've gone through something like this of moving around, um, it it's a sad thing, and that's all I have to say. I don't have anything else I want to say, ladies and gentlemen. So that's about it. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, if you guys have any similar stories, let me know in the comments down below, or you could give your own insight. And as always, I'll catch you guys in another video.